You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Night AngryMarks.com Pro Wrestling and Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. My name is Steve J. I have two co-hosts on the line, and a third will join us in a little while. But let me start out by introducing our guest co-host for the night from the Angry Marks Rewind and the NXT Report, among many other things. It's Rohan Unrau.
Hey, thanks for having me back for my semi-annual main roster call-up.
It's going to be more often than that. We're going to have to call on you every now and then because there's some people on this podcast who don't like to watch WWE, including my other co-host right now, the great Sudoku, Jason Harland. Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you. Yes, I am the AngryMarks Intercontinental Champion, and I will accept Chris Jericho's challenge.
Yeah, you'll have to because WWE won't. Even though title versus title could have been money, they won't do it.
Yeah, Vince is notorious for walking away from money when he wants to put himself over.
Well, he's notorious for walking away from money except when Saudi Arabia's handing it.
That too, yeah, but like the whole invasion with the WCW, ECW angle, I mean, there was money to be made. There was money left on the table there that they walked away from.
Well, we're not leaving any money on the table tonight because a bunch of us, if maybe not Jason, did watch what they were charging $9.99 a month for. I'm not talking about New Japan because that's 999 yen. I'm talking about WWE Network and their offerings over the past weekend. NXT Takeover and SummerSlam. Rowan, since you're the guest, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I guess we may as well go in order, but before we begin, I just want to give Vince and the powers that be maybe just a little bit of advice. In my mind, what they should do for next year, they should run SummerSlam on Saturday and then get that out of the way and then do the Takeover on the Sunday as the main event and then, do their Raw and SmackDown tapings. Because I think 4 nights in that arena, it was a little bit taxing, but overall I thought that Takeover was at least the most anticipated event that I was looking forward to, and I thought that was a wonderful show.
So basically what you're saying is the problem with starting with Takeover is it was all downhill from there?
Well, and not only that, we're coming off the G1, we're coming off all these world-class matches that the wrestling world is now pretty much been spoiled with. So at least the last 2 G1s, we've been spoiled with these great workers, these great matches. And then we get Takeover, which is, I guess, their version of, the best product that they have. And then we get SummerSlam, which it wasn't a bad show, but it just seemed really flat to me.
Mm-hmm. It was just there. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was just there.
It had the potential to be something really good, but I think, I don't know. They just seemed to drop the ball and they made people really not care about it.
It was too damn long. That's part of the reason. When it's 6 hours long, it's hard to care for the entirety of that show.
And, even though I did watch SummerSlam, I did fast forward through quite a bit of it. I kind of went through the pre-show. I'm really glad that my remote has that little plus 30-second button. I used that a lot. There was no way I was watching the pre-show live.
Oh, I don't blame you. But just let me, before we start on Takeover, check really quick. Jason, did you see any of Takeover at all?
I did not, no.
Darn it. All right, well, Rowan will be doing the heavy lifting for that one, but we will come back around to other stuff. So we'll get you back in here in a minute, Jason. But first, let's talk Takeover. And you were talking about the G1, Rowan, and I'm going to suggest that this one is up to the standards of G1 matches. This tag team match between the Undisputed Era and Mustache Mountain, 5 stars.
My God, this was my match of the whole weekend. Say what you want about the Takeover main event, which was also pretty good. That one, it went a little bit long. I think the main event went about 37 minutes, but this tag match, I think I've watched it about 4 times since it aired. And I can't get enough of it. These guys are just wonderful. They make my heart happy. And I actually tweeted out saying, thank you to Undisputed Era for making me a big fan of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, and especially NXT tag team wrestling, because we had a long period of time where it was all about guys like Authors of Pain and The Ascension and just these boring generic 1980s, 90s rip-off Demolition style, Road Warriors style teams. And now we've got these 2 really unique, really fun teams with 2 completely different styles. We've got the Undisputed Era doing the American Indie / Ring of Honor / NXT style. And then we've got Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven doing the British Strong style. And just watching those 2 styles collide and still work so fluidly with each other, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like these 2 teams know how to have a bad match. And I'll disagree with you on one small, detail of what you just said. You said Authors of Pain and The Ascension, you said that they're boring teams. I don't think that they were boring teams when they were in NXT. Those 2 acts were extremely over. It's just that their presentation on the main roster has just been garbage. So it's not so much the talent, because you go back and you watch some of those Ascension matches in NXT, the crowd they were into those guys.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, because my perception of them is colored by how they've been used on the main roster. Going back historically, they were more over in NXT than they are now. So can't say you're entirely wrong about that.
I think because we've forgotten about their NXT run. All we have is these, Honor the Giant Battle Royals or these multi-man matches on superstars that mean nothing. So obviously, we're going to have this diluted impression of them.
Right. But nothing is diluted right now about either of these teams, because like you said, they can't have a bad match with each other. They just keep having these classics over and over again.
No, and Jason, is this something that if you were prompted enough that you would actually go out of your way to watch this?
It's something that I wouldn't be adverse to watching. My problem is just getting invested in NXT, knowing that when these guys get caught up to the main roster, they're going to be squandered and wasted. But yeah, Undisputed Era, who I know as Red Dragon, are, when they were in New Japan, at the time they left New Japan, in my mind, they are, or were, the best tag team in the world. They probably still are, but it doesn't get much better than O'Reilly.
Hasn't changed at all.
And to me, I like the addition of Roderick Strong into the family. The fact that he's part of this group now makes them even better as a trio than when it was just Fish and O'Reilly by themselves. And with Adam Cole as their de facto leader, that's the best part of all.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got 2 extra in Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, which is, kind of nice. But, again, I think that's something that works in NXT, but I don't think that's something Vince would allow to fly on the main roster. He's not going to let a bunch of ROH guys band together and kind of, make known in a very underhanded way that they were part of another organization.
Right, but wouldn't that make for, the best invasion angle?
It sure would, but yeah, we've seen what Vince does with invasion angles and, leaves money on the table and just wants to get his guys over. The other companies be damned.
Oh, yeah.
And even at this age, he doesn't understand that those are his guys. He owns them.
Right. You're not losing money if you don't put over the Ring of Honor guys over the WWE guys. You don't have to keep the WWE guys strong. They're all your guys.
And, I mean, even if he could even have those guys bury Ring of Honor too and say, we're not there anymore. We're here. We're here to take over this. We're not here to be Ring of Honor. We're in WWE now. We may be banding together, but we're not ROH.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we left those bingo halls behind.
And they've always treaded kind of a fine line with that when they talk about, we're the new era, we're not the old era. They're kind of hinting that they left Ring of Honor behind.
Yeah, as far as that whole group goes, the best thing to ever happen to them was to have Bobby Fish get injured.
Oh, ouch.
Okay, not that I don't like Bobby. I think he's awesome. I think anybody who can beat Ishii is, he's a quality guy. I just think, adding Roderick to that group, it makes them sort of extra sort of, high school athletic douchey attitude.
Yeah, well, that's the best use of Roderick Strong is kind of a douchey, muscular, like, I'm cooler than you, I'm stronger than you kind of guy. He's got a cool heel persona.
Right, he's the captain of the football team.
And a cool heel name, yeah. Right in the name, Roderick Strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is ironic because if you ever meet him, he's one of the nicest guys in the world, but he just plays such a cocky heel so well.
And the only thing I'm kind of worried about right now, or maybe not so much worried, but just wondering, is what do they do with Mustache Mountain now? Because after this match at Takeover, obviously the War Raiders is their next program. So are they penciling in Mustache Mountain to be exclusively on the NXT UK brand, or are they going to be one of those acts that goes back and forth?
I think we're going to get a clearer picture of that this weekend since they're taping NXT UK. So perhaps we should wait a couple of days and see what the results of the taping are to find out what they're doing with those guys next. But I'm glad you mentioned the War Raiders coming out after the match and completely laying waste to the Undisputed Era, because that really gets them over as the next feud, and it also gets them over as, ironically enough, given the topic we just discussed, the invaders of NXT.
Yeah, I think
that is so wrong calling them War Raiders. That's just, they're War Machine.
I know.
They are War Machine.
I know. Michelle and I had this debate while I was watching the show live, and I said, honey, they can't call them War Machine here. They've got to own the name, and they probably don't want to get a trademark lawsuit from Marvel.
But do they still owe the individual name? Like, they're still Rowan Hansen, are they not?
Oh, yeah, but they've filed trademarks on that, no doubt about it.
Okay. It's going to be nice for them to get a program in with Undisputed Era, because in a couple of months, they're going to start doing angles for War Games in November. On this past week's episode of NXT TV, there was a crawler along the bottom already saying that Survivor Series weekend, the next Takeover is going to have a War Games match. So I'm assuming War Raiders are going to be part of that.
How could you have War Games without the War Raiders? It just doesn't make sense. You got to do it. But let's move on.
They'll be in Los Angeles, so there's a shot at the Raiders.
Absolutely. But let's just move on to the next match on the card. Rowan, take it away.
The next match was the story of a guy trying to get noticed, and me thinking to myself, be careful what you wish for, young man, because if you get what you want, history dictates that NXT call-ups do not always do as well as they think. It was Velveteen Dream versus EC3 in what I thought was probably the weakest match of the 5 on the main show, just as far as work goes. I still think Velveteen made himself a star. Everyone has seen his tights. He's got the purple tights with the
Call me up Vince on the tights.
Do Vince has any idea who this guy is?
No. I'm sure Vince McMahon has never even heard of Velveteen Dream, not even when he was on Tough Enough.
This match was just all charisma. It had solid work from both guys, but I think what Dream lacks in the ring, he more than makes up for it in charisma. The tights and his mannerisms throughout the match, Dream had the crowd pretty much in the palm of his hand the whole time. EC3 wasn't too shabby either. I thought their work was a bit disjointed at times, but they did mesh well together when it mattered.
They did indeed. And charisma, as you've already pointed out, was a big part of this match, because if their styles don't necessarily gel, their charisma is off the charts and makes up for it anyway, because EC3 should have been a heel when he came to NXT, but the crowd just adopted him and said, hey, we've forgotten about the whole Derek Bateman thing. You're EC3 from TNA, and we love the TNA guys when they come here, so you're one of ours now. And they chant NX3 at him, and they just adore him when he does anything. And like you said, Velveteen Dream with his whole Prince gimmick that he's got going and that catchy funk music, D-R-E-A-M. You know, it's like, this is just the total charisma match. Like, even if these guys couldn't do a lick of moves between them, the charisma was off the charts.
Yeah, this was one of the shorter matches. It basically came to Dream hit his Dream Valley Driver on the edge of the apron, which, as we all know, is
the hardest part of the ring.
And he hit his big Dream elbow from the top and just kind of rolled him in and pinned him. And I think the whole match only went maybe about 11 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was a relatively short match, but I was thoroughly entertained by it. It wasn't the best match of the show. You're damn right about that, but I got no beefs with it whatsoever.
The next match I thought was probably close to the best match. It was the North American title with Adam Cole and Ricochet. What did you think of this one?
Crazy action. You know these two were going to pull out all the stops because, one, Adam Cole is super over with this crowd, and two, Ricochet is really trying to prove himself both to the NXT faithful and to the potential of being called up to the main roster. So neither one of them were going to hold anything back in this match. They were pumped up and they were ready to fly.
Yeah, and the definite spot of this one, I think everybody has seen. Actually, earlier on the pre-show, which was the TV tapings for this week, Pete Dunne and Zach Gibson had a match, and there was a spot where Dunne tried a moonsault from the second row, and Zach sort of gave him like a sort of a sidekick to his face while he was upside down. And I guarantee you, Ricochet and Adam Cole were in the back there looking at this, saying, "We can do better than that."
Yeah.
God damn it, they did.
Boy, yeah, you called it. That's exactly right. They were looking at that at the tapings and going, "I see your card and I raise."
I raise you a Shelton Benjamin, Shawn Michaels spot, and I will double it.
Oh, yeah. They, again, like I said, not the match of the show, but easily second best or tied for second best.
It was probably at least the spot of the show.
Yeah, spot of the show. You could say that much. If you got to watch anything just to see two people try to kill each other while still being safe, this is the match to watch.
Yeah, I think Ricochet's got a lot of options for his first title defense. I think it's going to be important that he successfully establishes the title with a couple of meaningful defenses down the road. Mm-hmm. I know that they had teased him and Pete Dunne down there, later on, but I think this might be the perfect opportunity for Matt Riddle to debut.
Yeah, I would love a program between Riddle and Ricochet. That's like bringing the two best guys from the independent circuit into NXT and pairing them up with each other and letting them dance. I love the sound of it.
Yeah, and in an environment like NXT in the Florida area, he's going to be over like crazy. So I can't wait for that.
I can't wait for the first time I hear the crowd during an episode of WWE NXT break out into bro, 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 bro.
Yeah, you watch, and that'll be the time where Vince decides, I should check this out, see what this is. And then he sees that on his TV.
He's going to be like, what the fuck is this shit?
Oh, well, goddamn, what's this bro stuff?
All right, now I believe we got to talk about the Pirate Princess and the Queen of Spades.
Do we really?
Yeah, we do. We really do.
Okay. I don't know. As far as women heels go, I think Shayna has a lot of potential. Kyrie, of course, is super uber babyface. And I don't know, I thought this match kind of disappointed.
Well, I do like something my wife said about it. She took a look at Shayna Baszler and said, she's not a diva. And I'm like, you're goddamn right.
Oh, she's an ass kicker.
Yeah, there's no diva to Shayna Baszler. There never has been, there never will be.
I don't know, Baszler still needs a little bit of polish, but her improvement after each match has been promising. So I thought a pretty, I guess, if it was on like an NXT TV show, this would probably be the best match of that episode. But on this show, I think it was a bit overshadowed.
Yeah, it kind of suffers by comparison. But let me just say, in a completely biased and unapologetic fashion, that Kairi Sane is one of the cutest people on the face of the earth. I just adore her.
It's going to be a tough comparison when, what's her name? Io Shirai?
Io Shirai, yes.
Io Shirai. I took a look at her for the first time today.
She's pretty damn cute too, but But Kiri Hojo is right up there.
She's well, I don't want to say anything because then we're going to get into a whole Dave Meltzer Peyton incident. So
No, we've already covered that topic on this show, so don't worry about it. I mean, we've all acknowledged that it's a cosmetic business, but I'm also saying that when you factor in the cosmetics, you have the perfect dynamic here because you have the tough, muscular, but well-defined and attractive in her own way, Shayna Baszler against the small, Japanese, cute, and also athletic Kairi Sane. So they both bring all of their strengths to the table in completely different ways.
yeah, I think if you're classifying Baszler as a diva, you're classifying her as someone that she's not intended to be. I think you were exactly right there. I think her losing the title is kind of a sure thing that she's going to be part of the Evolution pay-per-view.
Oh yeah,
and I'd like to see her. There's a lot of potential opponents that would I think, do very well with her.
You know what I want to see, fantasy booking hat? I want to see Shayna Baszler and Trish Stratus.
If it was me, I'd put Shayna and Nia.
What about Shayna and Lita?
That could be good too.
Or it could be a terrible cluster. It could go either way.
Or you could bring Jessamine up right away, and the two of them could have a terrible fight.
Yeah. But I hear that the Four Horsewomen are coming along really fast, so I wouldn't be surprised if by WrestleMania next year we actually finally get that 4-on-4 match they've been teasing for so long.
You don't think that's happening in Survivor Series this year?
I think that's too soon. I don't think Jessamine Duke or any of the other horsewomen other than Baszler and Rousey would be ready.
Would pairing Rousey with them at this point be a downgrade for Rousey?
I think you have to let Rousey have some time as a star on her own with the women's title and really establish herself and then bring her friends into the picture.
Because that she's going to have an Natalia feud between now and then.
Oh, of course. That's the whole reason they did the big hug. Like, Michelle and I were calling that I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves with SummerSlam, but we were calling that the moment they started hugging each other. I'm like, oh, Natty's going to turn on her at some point. They wouldn't be doing this if they weren't setting it up.
Well, and part of me thought that they were going to rush it and say, oh, she's not going to do the turn now, is she? That would be stupid.
I know. That's what I was afraid of when I saw that hug. I was like, don't do it tonight. It's too soon. Don't do it right now.
So what you're saying is, if you're, if you and your best friend are in the wrestling business together, you're never going to turn on your friend, right?
No, actually, I'm saying the exact opposite.
And there's not going to be a gigantic backlash.
No, there's never a backlash unless it's WWE backlash. But anyway, speaking of friends turning on each other, how about DIY?
This was 37 minutes of just pure joy.
Mm-hmm.
I loved every second of this.
Yeah, and ironically, it's not better than the tag team match, but it is so damn close.
The only nitpick I would have with it is that there was maybe a little bit too much stalling. What they did in 37 minutes, they probably could have done in 27.
Yeah, I did kind of feel it was drawing out a little bit, but I also think they were taking advantage of how hot the crowd is for this feud and saying, we can milk this, we can go long, and because they're so into how much they hate Ciampa and love Gargano, that they'll keep riding with us all the way through.
I think we're reaching territory where it can be legitimately debated that Ciampa Gargano is probably the best feud in pro wrestling this year. Even anything bigger than, I dare say New Japan, but somehow these two managed to put on yet another brutal match. It did leave the fans still not bored with the feud.
The one thing that I take exception to, and this is because their other matches have been so great, I felt like this finish, because of the last man standing stip, was a little on the weak side. And for those who didn't see it, I'll describe it. So Gargano and Ciampa are up on the stage, and there's been handcuffs introduced into the match, and at this point, Ciampa is handcuffed to the top of the stage, and Gargano is setting up for a running knee to just absolutely destroy him. But as he hits it, he goes flying past him, crashes into a set of boxes that are off the side of the stage, but appears to have connected with the knee. And so you think, that's it. Ciampa's out, he's done. But because he's chained to the stage, when he collapses, he falls off the stage and his feet end up dangling and then they touch the ground. So he's technically standing and Gargano is not because he wiped him out doing the running knee. So Ciampa wins. I thought that was, I mean, it's creative, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of weak compared to their other matches.
Well, the handcuff actually held Ciampa up, and he rolled off the stage. Just like you said, he rolled off the stage while Gargano was unable to get up because of what the commentary called a dislocated knee. Mm-hmm. And as he was being, helped to the back, seeing Ciampa just come back out, do his little dick wave, it's so awesome.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to see these guys ahead.
I will say him coming and gloating over the fact that he won again did kind of bring me back up. I thought the finish was weak, but the gloating afterward made up for it.
Yeah, if I was them, I would keep Gargano off TV for at least a month to sort of sell the injury, and you can introduce Ciampa with another challenger, just maybe as a TV program, maybe put him up with Velveteen or someone else. Let that go for a month, and then, let Gargano come back around War Games time. Mm-hmm. Maybe, perhaps the two of them can be War Games captains.
Right, and who knows when Aleister Black is going to be back from his groin surgery, so we've got that on the back burner as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from the sublime to the ridiculous, SummerSlam.
All right, well, before we get ridiculous with SummerSlam, let me add William Huckabee to the call. He says he's ready, so I'm going to put him on the air with us right now, and he can join us to talk about SummerSlam. Mr. Huckabee, are you here on the air with us? Hello. Hello, sir. Are you here with us now?
What's up, guys?
Perfect timing, William. Rohan said we were about to talk about something not quite so sublime, and that is SummerSlam, and I assume you watched it as well.
No.
Wow. Rohan and I really are doing the heavy lifting with the WWE this week.
I watched the important stuff. Let me put it like that. I watched the important stuff.
All right, well then, cut in when you hear something that you watched. So, Rohan, where do you want to start with this one?
Oh my God. Well, pre-show, Cien and Almas and Selena beat Rusev and Lana. I think Selena is cute as a button. She's no good in the ring. She has very poor ring presence. She attempted a roll-up, putting her feet on the ropes, but because she's so tiny and short, she couldn't reach the ropes, and by the time the ref counted 3, that's when she decided to reach back and put her foot on the rope. No good. I feel really bad for Rusev. Last month he was the challenger for the world title, and now he's jerking the curtain.
Well, she's still better than Lana, because Lana is no good at all.
Lana has no business being within 50 feet of any ring. The WWE ring should take out a restraining order against Lana.
No, because I want her at ringside as a manager for Rusev, being a distraction for his opponents. I just don't want her wrestling.
I want her to have a consistent accent.
You know what?
Understand myself.
I would say the same thing about her as I would about Rusev. They've both been living in Nashville so long, their accents are gone.
We got Cedric Alexander and Drew Gulak. This was actually a pretty good match. Sadly, the pre-show was the best they could be allocated. Nevertheless, Alexander and Gulak took advantage of the extended time and the spotlight to deliver what I thought was an excellent cruiserweight title match. Probably even better than the one that was at WrestleMania.
I would say if this was a main event of 205 Live, people would have been raving about it.
Yeah, this match truly put over Gulak's intensity and the ability to turn it up in big matches. I loved his ring entrance. He came to the ring, very reminiscent of like a Rocky. The red, white, and blue. I know it goes along with his, Gulak for president sort of character. Mm-hmm. I think big things are in store for both these guys. I was entertained by this one.
Yeah, I've loved Cedric for a long time now, and I keep saying that Gulak is underrated both as a performer and as a character, especially, and I know Enzo was terrible, and we all agree that he was terrible, but pairing Gulak with Enzo and letting Gulak cut promos for him was some of the funniest shit they ever did.
Well, the fact that Enzo was so bad, that was the joke.
Mm-hmm. That's what made Gulag so great. It was perfect when he would go, "How are you doing?" instead of "How you doing."
He taught him to enunciate.
Yes, indeed. So, well, we move on from a highlight to some lesser aspects of the show.
Oh, come on now. What are you talking about?
I think you know what I'm talking about.
We got the Raw Tag Team titles. 6 minutes. The B teams beat the Revival. Nothing more to say here.
Can I jump in on this one real quick? Number one,
please.
What in the actual fuck are Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, number one, doing with the Tag Team Championships, and number two, going over on the Revival? There are several, and the third thing wrong with this picture is the WWE Raw Tag Championships are on the pre-show. But there's just so much wrong in such a small space here.
I will try to answer those questions as best I can. Number one, the actual fuck is the tag team that always wins on a fluke. That is what they're doing with the B team. And the second thing is the Revival is going to be feuding with them endlessly because there are no other tag teams on Raw other than these two teams. And the third thing is the Revival is so much better than that, but they don't get the chance to prove that because the whole B team thing is they keep winning on a fluke. So it's never going to come to fruition for them no matter how good they are.
More guys that were over in NXT that get buried on the main roster.
Mm-hmm. Well,
hear that, Velveteen? Don't.
Kerry saying I'm looking in your direction.
Yeah, some people just don't
it
want to be called
Oscar,
up.
It'll happen to you.
Oh, yeah.
The Revival, they're such good workers, and they actually do make, matches with the B team seem somewhat watchable. But with the tag division situation in Raw as being as messed up as it is, I mean, the previous champs were Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, and that just tells you what level they have. I don't know. Makes me mad. 6 minutes, no good.
No.
Revival deserved better.
Well, I would even say the B team deserved better, but that's not how they're booked.
And then we get the start of the main show. It opens with Seth Rollins in his Thanos gear. It took me a couple of minutes to realize what sort of character he was getting at. Then I noticed the gold boot.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's Rollins and Ambrose. This match went 22 minutes. What did you think of this one? I thought this one was pretty good. Not the best one that these two have had in the last couple of months, but, not a bad pay-per-view opener.
Yeah, but you said Rollins and Ambrose. I don't think that's what you meant.
Sorry. Rollins with Ambrose versus Ziggler.
Yes, thank you. That's a little better.
That's how much this show meant to me.
Alright, so, hey guys.
Go ahead, Will.
So this was one of the matches I actually did watch, went back and watched, and as a wrestler, I will say that this could have been a really good 12 to 15 minute match that they stretched out to 22 minutes. They really could have taken out a couple of things, cleaned up a couple of things, you know what I'm saying? And they could have had a really hot 15-minute match, which coincidentally would have meant that they could have given a spot on the main show to the tag teams. You know what I'm saying? To the tag team title. But, this was one of the few matches I did watch, just because I wanted to, I'm a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler's and stuff. And I think that he's one of the best actual workers on the WWE roster and stuff. And I just felt like there was a lot of empty, wasted space, a lot of things that they really didn't need in this match.
I will say, if I can go ahead, Rohan, I will say that adding Dean Ambrose as the neutralizer for Drew McIntyre, I thought was a really clever way to bring him back from injury and rehab. And I think when he hit the dirty deeds on McIntyre, that was a super good pop.
Yeah, I thought, especially after last year's rather disappointing Iron Man match, that the pressure was on for them to shine. And I think to everyone's delight, they did. What started, like Will said, is a pretty slow plotting affair, resulted in 6 minutes afterwards of some of the best pure action that the main roster has seen all year, really.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mind Rollins getting the title back so quickly. I feel like it's not worthy of like Gargano Ciampa in terms of a feud, but Rollins and Ziggler has had some good moments.
Do we want to move on? Anyone else?
Yeah, let's move on to the Bludgeon Brothers. And unfortunately here, Eric Rowan tore a bicep catching somebody.
Yeah, that led to, yesterday's tag title switch. This was one of the matches that actually I skipped through. It's only 9 minutes. Highlight of this was when Xavier Woods was performing an elbow drop onto Harper from the outside before the hammers were introduced, which led to a DQ. So it was short, but nevertheless, it was. I guess it was pretty well paced. They only gave him 9 minutes, so what can you expect?
Yeah, 9 minutes with a bullshit finish. You can definitely fast forward through it.
Speaking of bullshit finishes,
Oh,
I understand what they're trying to do with Braun. I feel so sorry for Kevin Owens. He probably went out, had his brand new, Money in the Bank shirt made just so he could sell them, and he gets squashed in under 2 minutes.
yeah, they have had Braun driving a locomotive headed straight into Kevin Owens every time they meet. It crashes, he goes flying. You gotta give Kevin Owens credit. He is taking hellacious bumps trying to make Braun Strowman look good. Like, every time that Braun would just get up a full head of steam and charge at him, KO would take a flip bump and turn himself inside out as he got run over. I mean...
And for what? The guy's 34 years old. He's got a bad back. It was quite the expectation that everybody had for him that he was going to end up with this Money in the Bank contract. So for him to be, squished within 2 minutes, they really took the piss out of this crowd early.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not going to disagree entirely, but I am going to look at the bigger picture, because the small picture is I really love Kevin Owens, and I hate to see him just get destroyed to this degree. But the bigger picture part of this is that they're trying to establish Braun Strowman, and Kevin Owens is doing a hell of a job of doing that. So I applaud him. Whether it's what I want as a fan of Kevin Owens or not, I applaud the work that he is doing.
Yeah, Braun was the subject of 2 separate occasions on this night where the writing staff and Vince is like, we're gonna tease something, we're gonna screw him over. But we'll get to that. Speaking of being screwed over, Becky Lynch.
Nice segue. Very nice segue.
My Twitter has melted. I don't understand. Carmella lost the SmackDown Women's title to Charlotte, and Becky Lynch was also there.
Well, here's what you should understand. Becky Lynch was the crowd favorite, both here and before on SmackDown and afterward on SmackDown. But apparently, she is supposed to be the heel, because she's turning on Charlotte, who apparently won the title fair and square. But that's not how the crowd sees it, nor is that how I see it. Because
Can I jump in and ask a question here about this match and in general about Charlotte Flair?
I will give you that question. Just let me describe the finish really quick, because as far as I'm concerned, Becky had the match won with the disarmer, and then Charlotte stole the pin. But go ahead.
I mean, to me, who doesn't watch the product, to me, it doesn't seem organic with Charlotte Flair. It seems like they're just kind of handing her title belts, trying to recreate what Ric Flair did organically in the NWA. They're trying to recreate that with Charlotte Flair. And to me, who doesn't watch regularly, it just seems very manufactured. Is that how it comes off when you're watching the product?
I don't feel like they're necessarily trying to recreate what her dad did. I think it's more of a factor of they think that she is the biggest women's wrestling star that they have. They think the star shines up her ass.
Don't get it. I completely don't get that.
And the crowd doesn't either, because they're 110% behind Becky. They want the last kicker to kick her last.
And how hard would it have been to have this just as a singles match between Carmella and Becky, have Becky win, have her win with the disarmer, have her do the Yuji Nagata eye roll as she's putting on the armbar.
Yes.
Wait a couple weeks, then introduce Charlotte back into the storyline, and have those two have a match.
Yeah. And furthermore, I just want to reiterate this point if it's not already clear. Becky attacking Charlotte after the match was a total babyface move. It is not a heel turn, no matter what WWE thinks or the creative writers think. That was a face move because the crowd popped for Becky getting her revenge on Charlotte for stealing the pin.
Well, never mind, Roman Reigns is still a face too, so go figure.
Now, if we're thinking long term here, is the writing staff thinking that, in other cities, Becky would be as over as she was to this New York crowd? Because obviously the crowd's going to be different depending on what market you go to.
That may be true, but I just feel like there's a groundswell of momentum for Becky right now. She's been the last that's been waiting in the wings, that she was the first SmackDown Women's Champion, and she's been trying so hard to get back to that point. And people know it, too, and they've been getting into the story.
Yeah, the story could have been told so much simpler. You could have kept Becky as a babyface. The crowd would be fine with it. And she's over in every city they go to. So what was the point of introducing her as a heel? And if you are going to, if she is going to be a heel, don't cut a heel promo on, in the same building where you just got the biggest babyface pop 48 hours before.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
Well, speaking of things that make no sense, to me, I know Samoa Joe is being presented as a heel in WWE, but I've been with Samoa Joe since he was the Ring of Honor World Champion for 18 straight months, and to me, the guy is never a heel, so they are just going extra over the top with things like, Wendy, I told you I'd come home with the title. It's like they're trying so hard to get him over as a villain, and to me, he is still a face.
Yeah, and I think the majority of the crowds agree with you.
Yes, they just like seeing Joe kick ass.
And they like seeing AJ being, all fiery and coming to the rescue of his family.
Mm-hmm. So, it was a satisfying match. It wasn't the best I've ever seen the two of them do, but by their WWE standards of what they're allowed to do, it was okay.
And based on what they're probably going to be doing in the next couple of months, I had no problem with the DQ finish. I think we're just setting the table. This is just the first chapter. I think eventually Joe's going to he's going to have to take the title off of AJ for at least a short amount of time.
Right. And like you said, this wasn't a useless DQ like the one we had in the Bludgeon Brothers match, which just was a waste of everybody's time. This one was like the first chapter in a much longer story.
Yeah, WWE disguised this non-finish to build the character development for both guys, and AJ finally avenged his family after awkwardly standing there and, just taking it previously in the last match, and Joe just kind of added more layers to his heel character. I thought, the most over character in this story is the 4-year-old girl. Was it Annie? Anna?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Said, Daddy, you're bleeding!
And you know what? For AJ's wife to be involved in the story, you could tell she kind of had a deer in the headlights look at times, but I actually thought that worked better. Like, if she was a polished actress who was used to being in the camera, that would have totally ruined it.
I would have died if they found Claire Lynch.
I did hear people suggesting that. Obviously, you did as well.
Wow.
That would have been awesome.
Would have been more awesome than this stupid concert we got.
Speaking of fine actresses.
What, are you saying Elias is an actress? Okay.
God, if I have to, okay, on my WWE network, I have it as a basic standalone cable channel in addition to the online, on-demand. And so they just, it's like a premium channel. It's like your HBOs or whatever. And they just keep rotating the same series of shows over and over again. And
right.
Fucking
the
Elias
documentary is like every hour, every 3 hours.
It makes me want to cancel the network altogether. I'm so fucking sick and tired of seeing it. I hate the Drifter.
Yeah. I think you were probably glad that his guitar broke. You were like, thank God.
No, I skipped the whole segment. I didn't even see it. The only reason I knew his guitar broke was because I read the report afterwards.
Yeah.
But no, I hate him. He's no good. He sucks. I want to punch him in the face.
Okay, well, speaking of people who deserve to be punched in the face, The Miz facing Daniel Bryan, we got almost everything we would have wanted out of this interaction between the two of them. We got The Miz trying to steal Daniel Bryan's kicks and punches and moves, and Daniel Bryan countering that and doing them better because he's the original and not the imitation. He is the first version and not the carbon copy version. So we got to see him show Miz how it's really done. We got to see him out-wrestle Miz for the entirety of the match, and then we got the fuck finish, which I realize they're telling a story here. It's got to go someplace, so they needed Maurice to hand Miz the brass knucks and him to use them and then toss them back to her and her hide them. I get that it's part of the story that Bryan can't win the first one-on-one match between them in this feud in 2018, but damn it!
And shouldn't win the first match.
I know, but damn it!
Hey, Steve, don't worry. Miz will get his up. He'll get his comeuppance in the end. They're just going to wait for the first season of Miz and Mrs. to finish when they don't care about the ratings, and then they can beat him. And I did some research, and I tweeted this out. In the state of New York, possession of a pair of brass knuckles is punishable by up to 1 year in prison. And we have photographic and video proof that Maurice she's headed to the clink. I'm telling you.
Ooh.
All right, so Stevie.
Yes.
First of all, she didn't hand him brass knuckles. She handed him a belt buckle. Like they're not brass knuckles. It's a belt buckle in the shape of brass knuckles. So this was match number 2 that I watched. Didn't mind it at all. I love the whole Miz Daniel Bryan storyline. Since its inception, when the Miz was his mentor and stuff for, what was it, Tough Enough or whatever. Or NXT, whatever you want to call it. Tough Enough, NXT, whatever. The only problem I have with this, and I feel like most of the time, especially the indies, it's really overused, but I would have loved to have seen a Dusty finish in this match, where he gets the brass knuckles and Daniel Bryan cuts him off, hits him with the finish, whatever, and while he's pinning him, the Miz stuffs the brass knucks into his trunks and then tells the ref finds him, oh shit, you're disqualified, the Miz wins. When's the last time we've seen something like that in WWE? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like out of all the guys in WWE that could pull that off and actually make it work, the Miz is one of very few people that can pull off a Dusty finish. But this was one of my favorites, one of the matches I really, really enjoyed actually, just because I like the guys who were in it.
I did enjoy it. It's just, my heart breaks anytime Daniel Bryan loses. I'm too invested in the guy that even if I know the payoff at the end is coming later, it just hurts me in my heart in the moment.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, I like to see him. I like to see the Miz get beat as well. He's a really great heel. I just feel like this would have been one of those moments where they could have done a Dusty finish, and it would have came across way better, and the Miz would have got way more heat than actually hitting him with the brass knucks.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
When was the last time we saw a match with an 8-year build?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Probably something to do with Bruno.
Probably. But, it only feels like 8 years between Finn Balor and Baron Corbin, because that feud, it just never dies. But at least in this case, Baron Corbin dies when the Demon shows up, because this was a squash.
So the only thing worse than this match, the only thing that was worse than this match was the promo the next night on Raw. And
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about this match. The only thing worse than this was that promo the next night.
I don't mind this match because I don't mind Baron Corbin getting his ass kicked from one side of the ring to the other.
Just me, or does Corbin look like a substitute shop coach?
He looks like a retired NFL player who got a little chubby around the midsection.
The two big things here, like you said before, him freaking out that, oh, I didn't sign up for the Demon, like they're two different people. And second, if Balor is so is unbeatable with this fucking paint, where was the paint for every other match that he had to job out in?
I 10,000% agree with you, and my wife even said the same thing. She's like, he should always wear the paint. When he wears the paint, he never loses. I'm like, you're goddamn right. Can't argue with you when you're right, dear.
We gotta get her on the booking committee.
I don't like the fact that Finn Balor is the only cruiserweight not in 205 Live.
You're telling me Prince Thurgle Devitt should be on 205 Live? I'm going to disagree with that.
He would give that brand a huge pop, and I would love to see Cedric, or what's his name, the big jacked up white dude on 205 Live. What's his name?
Tony Nese?
No, the white guy.
Noam Dar?
Tony Nese isn't white?
Are you talking
I
about
don't think
Noam
so.
Dar?
No, Buddy something.
Buddy Murphy.
Oh!
Yes, I would love to see Buddy Murphy or Cedric versus, Finn Balor. Like, those matches would probably steal the show. This match, to me, this match and any match that Finn Balor's in with anybody the size of a Baron Corbin or or like Monday Night Raw, you know what I'm saying? Like, when he's working a bigger guy, like, it's just not believable to me. They don't book it to be believable. This guy's 175, 180 pounds maybe. He should be getting his ass beat and then having to come from behind because somebody gets overconfident. Like, it shouldn't be these matches with him should not be
But doesn't the fact that he's competitive against Roman, he's competitive against Strowman, doesn't that bring some validity to the fact that he belongs to, battling with the heavyweights? I think him being on 205 would be a huge demotion.
And I'm going to further that point by saying this is a man who was the top gaijin in New Japan Pro Wrestling, so there's no way you can't tell me he's not competitive with the heavyweights.
He
That's like
shouldn't.
saying that when Rey Mysterio gets signed, that they put him on 205 because, he's the same level of superstar as Balor is right now.
Once again, this is just my observation as a wrestler. I feel like people look at 205 as a step down, but I mean, you think about it, he can build that brand. That's a whole separate brand. He can build that brand to where it can have its own separate show and it be legitimate. I feel like him working with those younger guys would give them the rub and give them the experience that they need. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I have a huge problem with him working Roman Reigns and it's a competitive match. And then Roman Reigns works with Braun Strowman and it's still as competitive. It's like, it shouldn't be. If you're having a hard time with a 180-pound guy, you should almost get demolished by somebody like Braun.
Well, I hate to say we're just going to go around in circles on this one, Will, but I don't think we're ever going to totally agree on this, so I think we just have to move on to the next match, which is Jeff Hardy and
Nakamura.
The artist, I was going to say, because I refuse to, at this point, he's not even Nakamura anymore. Am I wrong, Jason?
From IWGP Intercontinental Champion to somebody who kicks guys in the balls. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
He's Nakamerica.
Yeah.
That's got to be a shirt.
Yeah, I don't want that shirt. I'm not buying that shirt. I won't
I
even sell
really
that
hope he
shirt
goes
on
back to
eBay.
New Japan in 2019. Please go back to New Japan, Shinsuke, please.
When is his contract up?
Probably around
January?
January. Yeah.
Are there any other North American wrestlers currently in Japan whose contract is going to be up soon so they could do some sort of a switch? I know that there are no
The Young Bucks,
Well, the Young Bucks have already
Kenny Omega.
said that they don't want to go to WWE, so I don't think any amount of money is enticing them to go.
I need to throw in some draft picks.
Anyway, what do you want to say about this match, Rowan? Because I don't have a lot to say about it.
I thought the match was a decent affair, and I think Nakamura works the WWE style a lot better as a heel. He and Jeff seem to work well together, and they seem comfortable with each other. The finish
they
involved
must be comfortable because Jeff doing a swanton bomb onto the apron with nobody there to catch him or do anything. He must trust Nakamura a lot if he's willing to take that bump.
Well, and especially since he did an interview just about a week prior saying that, hey, I'm 40 years old, things are sort of wrapping up, I gotta start taking a little bit easy on my back. And then he does this fucking thing.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing watching him do that. I'm like, Jeff, for the love of God, you're not doing the swanton on house shows anymore, and yet you just did this stupid thing.
It would be a really nice subtle touch that they could give Nakamura for this feud. Have him call Hardy Jeff Harvey. That would be a thing of beauty. A nice callback to Mike Adamle there.
Yeah, this match went about 11 minutes. I don't think Jeff should be really destroying his body at this point. He's not long for this style of match anymore.
No. And that's all we have to say about that. Yeah, let's move on to Ronda Rousey basically squashing Alexa Bliss.
The third squash of the night on this show that we would have conceivably paid $60 for if there was no network.
Mm-hmm. But this one, I wouldn't have minded that because I wouldn't have had it any other way. If Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss had a competitive match, I would have been pissed off.
Yeah, this match was everything it needed to be. It was an outright squash. Ronda is by far the best female to hold the women's title at the present time. Her mainstream appeal will get will get the company noticed. I think in turn it'll make mainstream stars with the women that she feuds with, and this is, I think, invaluable to WWE at this point, especially if they're going to be marketing this Evolution pay-per-view in a couple months. The post-match hugging with the Bella Twins over seemed really out of place, and there's a couple of spots where they were interviewing the Bellas, and they were just hated by this crowd. But they were.
Can I tell you how much I loved that? I was giggling then, and I'm giggling now because every time they get booed, I am so happy.
Well, and I don't think it's the Bella Twins. I think it's Nikki, because you had the two of them interviewed by Charlie Caruso before, and all Nikki could do
was who's going Darth Vader on us here? Nobody else heard that?
Yes, I'm gonna say Jason.
Me? Am I doing Darth Vader?
All right, sorry, Rohan. Go ahead.
Okay, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Nikki. When they're interviewing the Bella Twins, all Nikki could do is push Total Divas and Total Bellas, push all their clothing brands, and the crowd hated it. But then, later on, there's a vignette backstage after the Daniel Bryan match where Brie comes in, and she's consoling, she's being a nice, supportive wife. She's putting his needs first, and that kind of babyfaced her with the crowd. And then at the end of this match, they had the Bellas come in and hug Ronda, and I don't know, it took the shine away from what should have been just Ronda's moment. And I know that they're, again, setting the table for, I think, Ronda and Nikki down the road.
Yeah, at Evolution.
Yeah, 4 minutes, again, exactly what it should have been.
And then I wouldn't call it fourth squash match of the night, but almost a squash match, but it got drawn out a little bit because before the match could begin, Braun Strowman came out and said, "I know the history of this briefcase. People cash it in like cowards. I'm cashing it in face to face like a man, and whoever wins is gonna get these hands."
Yeah, I think the crowd got squashed on this one. Because right before the bell rings, Strowman comes out. My first thought is, triple threat. And then he does his little spiel, and I thought, okay, well, no, he's going to wait until the match is over. And that's exactly what everyone else thought. That's exactly what they wanted us all to think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a big swerve to avoid Roman getting booed. This was their huge play, was we're going to have Braun Strowman out here so these people won't take a crap all over Roman because they think Braun's going to cash in.
Yeah, they're holding on to this idea that, we're not going to get another WrestleMania finish where the crowd shit on both these guys, and the whole match only lasted about 6 minutes.
And you know what? It didn't even work because halfway through the match they started chanting, "You both suck! You both suck!"
Yeah, so Strowman is on the outside. Lesnar takes him out with an F5 on the floor. That looked like it sucked.
Yeah, and a chair for good measure. And then he tossed the briefcase all the way out of the arena. I
was hoping and praying that, that briefcase didn't end up with that car door that hit that fan. Oh,
yeah, I did. Well, the way he flung that thing, that was a distinct possibility.
Yeah, I think he broke the 100-yard shot put on that briefcase throw, and it bashed the LED wall, so that's coming out of Brock's allowance.
Absolutely, but you say shot put, and the late Tim the Anvil Neidhart would have been proud of that throw. It was massive.
Yeah, so let's see here. So Brock had a chair. He laid out Braun. He came back into the ring, and he was about to hit Roman. Then Roman jumped him and hit one spear and pinned him.
Well, that was after hitting 3 spears to start the match. So
right, and I thought initially what they would do is if Strowman was going to be out there, you have Roman just steam through this guy, give him 3 or 4 Superman punches, 3 spears, pin him, and then do what we all thought that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So they swerved
us. Ironically, yeah. But then on Raw the next night, he cashed in when Roman was down, so he is a bully, and he does cash in like every other cow.
Well, that was because they wanted the Shield to get the pop, so they wanted him to be the coward.
So that's SummerSlam. I don't know.
Before we move on, Will, did you have any thoughts about the main event? Did you catch it?
Yes, I did. And like everybody else, I was like, oh shit, Braun's gonna cash. I'm thinking like, okay, well, as soon as the match is over with, Braun's gonna fucking cash it in, and that didn't happen. And I was like, you had a chance to pop me, and you and you didn't. Like, you could have saved the entire pay-per-view by giving us what we all want. And instead you decide to be the assholes that you are. I'm so tired. What can be said about a Lesnar Roman Reigns match that hasn't been said before? Like, it's not a technical masterpiece. And to this point, they shouldn't even be wrestling. This should just be a fight. This should just be a fight. I'm really disappointed now, like, being the fact that they didn't give Braun, have him cash it in. I'm really disappointed that they had Brock lose the title to Roman, especially because we all know that Brock's getting ready for his UFC title match. As far as the Monday night main event went, I do not think that the Shield came out looking like baby faces. I think that they came out looking like cowards and assholes.
That's not the reception they got.
I think they got a great reception because the music came on and they were all like, oh shit, we got a Shield reunion, but their actions made them look really douchey and dicky because it's like, oh, well now you guys are now you're going to gang up on Braun Strowman to protect Roman Reigns from losing the title.
No.
That's how I took it.
Okay, well again, we have different interpretations. The way I see it is they're building up to a team match at Survivor Series with Braun Strowman's team versus the Shield's team. But go ahead, Rowan.
I was just going to say the parting shot of that Raw main event was you could hear after they had laid out Braun with the triple powerbomb on the table, you could hear Roman just say, "All right, thanks, boys." So Roman knew that his boys were going to have his back for him, and that's the story they want to tell. That Roman is going to be this chicken shit heel hiding behind his belt and hiding behind his two cronies.
Well, that would be the way it would come across to people who hate Roman, but to people who like the Shield, it comes across as they're bros that stick up for each other. They ride for each other. They die for each other.
Right, but is that going to force every crowd to be split?
Well, they'd probably prefer a split crowd versus a crowd that 100% hates Roman. And with the Shield, they've at least got a chance that he won't immediately get booed.
I think they're still going to boo him and cheer everybody else.
As long as they come out as a group, it's going to work.
Well, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's just horrible creativity, horrible job with the creative team, horrible booking.
Horrible booking, horrible creativity with WWE. Color me shocked.
What are the odds?
Yeah, what's the chances of that?
Has anybody ever thought about the fact that like the Shield has only been in WWE for 3-4 years? If that long?
They were feuding with CM Punk at one point, so it's been a little while.
5 years.
Yeah.
So 5 years they've been in WWE. And after the first 2 years, Seth Rollins turned on them, and now all of a sudden they're all buddy again. Like, really?
Yeah, but that leads to another turn down the line when they say, "Oh, Seth, remember that time you stabbed us in the back? Here's payback, buddy."
Like I said, it's everything about this storyline with the people involved has just been bad. And I was going to say this earlier when you guys were talking about the match, but I feel like what they did with Braun Strowman, having him go through Kevin Owens and stuff, is what they should have been doing from the get-go. The entire time that he's been in WWE, that's how his matches should have been. Once he got past all the enhancement talent, the local guys they were bringing in and stuff, and they got James Ellsworth the job, when he got to the main roster, he still should have been beating guys like this, 2-3 minutes tops.
So you're saying they should have done the Goldberg with him. They should have just had him plow through people.
If there's anybody that you can see plowing through people and it seems legitimate, it would be Braun Strowman.
So what you're saying is it's good booking to accentuate his strengths and hide his weaknesses.
Basically.
A novel concept.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Perish the thought.
Braun Strowman should not be having 10, 15-minute matches.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think the rumor for Hell in a Cell is the 3 Shields against Strowman, Lashley, and Balor.
Well, like I said, there was going to be a team match of some kind, so if it's not Survivor Series, it's Hell in a Cell, one or the other.
When is Hell in a Cell? But I say if they do Survivor Series around Thanksgiving weekend, then little Nicholas will be out of school for Thanksgiving break. He can have it, Braun. in the overall scheme of things, this has not been the worst pay-per-view of the year.
No.
From W.
It's not the worst. Not the best, but not the worst.
Yes.
On a slightly bit of a downer note, but it does need to be done before we wrap it up tonight. We have a couple more wrestlers that have passed away that we need to talk about. And Jason, I'm going to let you go first on this one. We have Viano 3 and Chris Champion of the New Breed, who was also Yoshi Kwan. What do you have to say?
It's just sad to see them go. It's just... Well, the Vianos are, I mean, they're not spring chickens. They're...
No, Viano 3 was 66.
Yeah.
Not,
they were, yeah,
not
I mean,
young, but not super old either.
Not super old, but yeah, the problem is they still wrestle actively, and it's not pretty, but it's still sad that one of the Vianos has died.
Yeah, well, Viano 3 had been in poor health for a little while, so he hadn't really been doing that much compared to his brothers. They're the brothers that are still with us.
Yeah, I think Triple Mania just took place, but yeah, I haven't bothered to watch it.
Oh no, Triple Mania is coming up.
Oh, it's coming up.
Alberto
Okay.
El Patron pulled out because
Imagine
Dario
that.
Morgan wouldn't pay him.
Imagine that, Alberto El Patron just reneges on a booking. Wow, that's
Yeah.
never happened.
What a shock, huh? We're saying that phrase a lot. What a shock. But yeah, Viano 3 was historically one of the best drawing, most popular members of the team. His one-on-one, was it hair versus hair or mask versus mask? I forget which, but he had a fantastic match with Atlantis that won the match of the year in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And you should go out of your way to watch it if you've never seen it, because I will take a page out of Dave's playbook and describe this to you in the following way. The crowd loved this match so much, and they loved both of the guys in it so much, they never wanted this match to end. They didn't want either one of these guys to lose. So if you
the crowd loves Atlantis, and they love to hate Vianos.
Yeah, so they were enjoying this one so much, this match could have gone 5 hours, and they would have been with it from beginning to end. So Viano 3 versus Atlantis is one to go out of your way to see. But let's talk about Chris Champion, too.
Was he the one I'm thinking of from WCW Special Forces?
No, he was in the New Breed, the tag
No,
team.
that was Todd Champion. Okay, that's the one I was thinking of.
No, Chris Champion is from the tag team of the future in the far-flung year of 2002.
The one where Dusty Rhodes was president?
Yes, yeah, they kept calling him Mr. President.
Yeah. Good
a precursor to Techno Team 2000.
Yeah, actually, yes, that's a good segue. But I'll take you in, Rowan, since you just segued us there. What do you have to say about Chris Champion in his passing?
You know, he never achieved the level that I think he could have gotten to. Unfortunately, he's just another one of those guys in that generation where, you know, he was bound for an early death, unfortunately. And I guess that's all I can really say about that. I'm not super familiar with his work.
Well, I can add a few things to that then. He was trained by the Malenkos, Boris Dean and Joe. He was, like you said, a very skilled wrestler who never quite achieved the level of success that you would think were commensurate with his talent. And as for dying too young, he was almost a decade younger than Viano 3. He was only 57 years old. But again, not super young, but definitely not super old.
Yeah, I think as far as talent level, he sort of fits in with sort of that Brad Armstrong
good
sort
example.
of mold.
Very good example. A guy that was over with the people who knew what good wrestling was, but wasn't that over at like a superstar level.
Yeah, a guy that could probably have a good match with just about anyone.
I think that's a fitting tribute to Chris Champion, a man worthy of his name, even if he didn't hold as many titles as his name suggests. Now, I have to tag in Will because he may have actually come across Chris Champion somewhere on the indie circuit.
No, I never came across Chris Champion. Actually, no, I'm lying. He did come to the first WrestleCade. I never wrestled at. He was actually there signing autographs and stuff. But I didn't have any like personal experience with him, but he influenced a lot of gentlemen in the South, a lot of Southern vets and stuff, guys such as the Naturals, you know, Chase Stevens and his tag partner and stuff. Rodney Mack, Damian Wayne, Cahagas, like, a lot of the guys who are my mentors and stuff were mentored by Chris Champion. The last couple of days on social media and stuff, I've just really enjoyed, reading a lot of stories that a lot of, like I said, my mentors have had with their experiences with Chris Champion. I guess, to mimic you guys and stuff, he was definitely a Brad Armstrong kind of guy. He was a very solid guy, very solid wrestler, could wrestle and could work with anybody. Was always willing to help out a lot of the young guys. According to Chase Stevens, was always willing to work with and help out younger talent and stuff and help them develop. And I guess he just seems like one of the kind of guys that professional wrestling really needed at that time.
I think that says it so well, there's nothing else left to be said. So, thank you for that, Will, and I'm going to tag Jason in because it's time for cheap plugs.
And yeah, something that Rowan had mentioned wanting to do, everybody go out and cancel the WWE Network. Spend that money, spend that $10 you're saving on New Japan World, NJPWWorld.com, because that is the best 999 yen you can spend a month. I'll plug Canadian football. I'm watching the Edmonton Eskimos snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, letting Hamilton come back here. So definitely check out CFL on Reddit. You can find live streams there for free. Piracy is a wonderful thing. You can check out my cooking blog at veggiebending.wordpress.com. You can find me on Twitter at Great Sudoku.
All right, Rowan, what's coming up next on the Angry Marks Rewind?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, I can't afford to cancel the WWE Network because I need it for the Angry Marks Rewind. We're currently working on episode 5. We're having a hard time keeping co-hosts. I don't know if it's me or what the deal is. We're working on something kind of fun. If you're married or if you're a guy with a girlfriend who's not a wrestling fan, you're probably going to enjoy what is going to be coming up next. I have something planned involving my lovely wife. I'm going to make her watch a show and review it, and you're probably going to hear a lot of, oh, he's hot, or, oh, he's gross. So, like I said, working on episode 5. Having said that, if you're listening to this, if you're within the sound of my voice and you think, hey, I want to be a co-host on this show, I can do way better than Rowan, I want to be part of the Angry Marks family, drop me a line on Twitter at Rohan Unrau. If you don't know how to spell it, it'll be fine because Steve will put the spelling of my Twitter handle in the description here. Or you can email me directly at angrymarksrewind@gmail.com. I actually have had a couple people that have inquired about being co-hosts, but nothing has come of that yet.
Here's a little tip for how to spell it. It's not Rowan like Rowan Atkinson. It's Rowan, Rohan. That should help.
Hippie parents.
So you say.
Like, they don't even like Lord of the Rings.
Well, I tell you what, Rowan, when you get to WCW having Master P come on, I will co-host that show.
We got quite the polarizing review of Uncensored 1997 that Aria and I have done 2 weeks ago. Aria's great. She stepped in 2 episodes in a row after my initial co-host was unable to continue. But again, I'm looking for some new friends, so hit me up. Let's talk.
All right. Well, that's your plug to join the Angry Marks Rewind. And, of course, we want to plug Aria 2, the Really Real AW, and last but not least, Mr. William Huckabee, who apparently we just missed his match tonight, but he sent us the link to the stream, so let's plug that here.
There you go. Make sure to follow me on social media. Follow me on Facebook, William Huckabee. Every week or every other week, as often as I can. USA Championship Wrestling out of Bluefield, West Virginia. If you like old school Crockett Promotions, Georgia Championship Wrestling style, that setup of wrestling, you'll love USA Championship Wrestling. I was very fortunate tonight. I actually wrestled the grandson of the original Cuban assassin. This week I'll be in Georgia all weekend. Tomorrow I'll be in Fort Valley, Georgia for AWN, defending my National Syndicate Wrestling title. Saturday I'll be in Carrollton, Georgia for UIW. And then Sunday I'm heading home because my kids finally start school. I feel like my kids, their school system is the last school system in America to go back to school. Be sure to check myself, Mika Villas, and CW out every week on this network for the Wrestling Nerdcast. Just had a funny podcast interview with the Weapon of Ass Destruction, Mr. Mitchell DeRose, where we talked about everything from her big butt to stealing pandas, etc., etc.
Let me say, her big butt don't lie. I'll take a page out of Sir Mix-a-Lot's playbook on that one. She is a fine figure of a woman. She would be a powerhouse in WWE, and I would be riding with her if she ever got there. So, let me also plug for William, USACW Online on Facebook. That's where you can go to watch the live show.
On that note,
Yeah, I'm about to exactly. And I expect for you guys to watch it and then shoot me back, feedback from my match. Okay, I expect all of you guys to watch it.
Yeah, everybody listening, do that too, at WA Huckabee on Twitter. Send in feedback there. But most of all, be sure to say, hey, what's up? Like Jonathan Courtwright and Steve Hoker and all of our friends on the Angry Marks Podcast Network do, and you'll get a shout out here too. This is Thursday Night AMP, Stevie J saying good night, and we'll see you again in 7 days.